Churches plan all kinds of things. Some are really good. Some aren't so good. Sometimes they're planned really well. A lot of thought has gone into them. And sometimes they're just thrown together. Today, we are going to look at Basic Strategic Introduction to Strategic Planning for churches who don't strategic plan well.
When I was a little boy in pastor school, nobody was happy. I had high blood pressure. And I started crying. Daddy told me to meet him in front of the liquor store.
Dobre utro. This is Jim Holland, and in this first part, we're going to talk about what is and what isn't strategic planning. Abraham Lincoln said, no, he really did say this. If you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, well, I'm going to spend the first 4 just sharpening the axe. This is a quote about strategic planning, about expending as much energy as possible before the project actually happens, so that the actual project isn't really so hard. Some churches just throw an activity or an idea out there and see what happens.
There is no plan.
They get an idea, they throw it together, and they run with it. And that leads to the very, very awful state of tyranny of the urgent. But then you have those churches that plan strategically. Now, I am a strategic planner. I may not be very good at it, but that's the way that I'm wired. It's the way that I think, and it's the way that I process. I kind of see things this way. I see the end result and where we want to go. And then I work backwards from there and see steps that we might want to take in order to actually get there in a healthy way. I backwards engineer, so to speak. In thinking this way, I'm sometimes able to see obstacles.
But fear not the obstacles in your path.
I'm able to see speed bumps or potholes that maybe others aren't so able to see. On the other hand, to dreamers, to visionaries, to the idea people, it can seem like you are against their idea rather than for it. Rather than helpful, a strategic planner in those situations to those people can really seem less like a help and more like an ass. Bonus information. Growing up, I was a Boy Scout. And technically, I'm an Eagle Scout. That never goes away. And the Scout motto that I learned and embedded itself in the way that I'm thinking is the very, very valuable, be prepared. Strategic planning in a church is simply that. It's being prepared. And being prepared has the ability to make a long-term goal go smoothly. It keeps the tyranny of the urgent at bay. And all the people involved are able to keep moving forward.
Allons-y.
I'm sorry?
It's French, so let's go.
Strategic planning is even biblical. Proverbs 24:3 says, a house is built by wisdom and becomes strong through good sense. Now, perhaps that's not contextually accurate, but I'll take it anyway. In his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey identifies one of those habits, which is begin with the end in mind. To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. Now, this is one of the greatest leadership books out there, and I will leave a link to it in the description below the video. Envision what you want to happen, the event, the goal, whatever it is. This is your vision. But the steps that it takes to actually get there, well, that's your mission. And a strategic plan simply is keeping the right steps in the right order at the right time to get to the right goal. So imagine a 13-year-old who wants to be an Olympic pole vaulter one day. Well, there are steps that have to happen in order for them to, well, get to the Olympics. So let's think of it backwards. If this person wants to win at the Olympics, well, they need to get into the Olympics. The step before getting into the Olympics is, well, they have to get a national championship. To get a national championship, they need to get a state championship. To get a state championship, they need to win a regional championship. To win a regional championship, first, they have to win a local championship. And to win that local championship, they have to be the best in their gymnastics class. That's the backwards engineering. From there, that person can do whatever it takes to meet each one of those steps in the right order at the right time in the right way. There's a process to it. A lot of us in church leadership don't think that we need to strategic plan. We think, well, I've got plenty of time.
I had plenty of time.
Now, it's not unusual that churches find themselves in the middle of a project, in the middle of an event, and have the thought, I wish we could have fill in the blank. Or the thought, if only we had more time, we could have, and they end up saying next year we can, fill in the blank. And in many instances, such as this, many but not all, taking the time to work out a strategic plan would have helped, missing some of the potholes, but it would allow some space for people to come up with some great ideas, some crazy ideas, and to dream a little. Now, you got to understand, strategic planning, well, there's not really formulas for it. It's a way of thinking. In part 2, we are going to look at strategic planning using a real-life actual church event as a guide, and maybe paint a picture for you of what strategic planning can look like. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear about your strategic planning successes and maybe strategic planning failures. Do not forget to subscribe. Figuring out how to go to the Olympics is not something they taught us. Nobody ever taught us that.
But I was young. I had plenty of time.